Hello and welcome to our analysis of iCAT03. iCAT03 is the third mock in our full-length national level CAT test series comprising 25 mocks. So the first two mocks that you have seen so far have varied from being easy, which was iCAT1, to moderate, which was iCAT2. iCAT3 has been classified as a moderate to difficult mock. So far compared to the first, in terms of the first three mocks that you are taking, this is by far the toughest mock up to this point. Let's look at this mock in greater detail over the next few minutes. As you can see, the difficulty level of this mock is rated at 2.03, which is marginally more than difficult. So broadly, this mock is classified as moderate to difficult. As you know, CAT has three sections, 100 questions, with a 34, 32, 34 breakup in terms of verbal, DILR and quant. Let's look at each section one by one. So let's start with the verbal section, which is 34 questions to be done in 1 hour. So what are the number of attempts that you need to make in this section? And what is the breakup of this section? So as you would know, verbal comprises of 5 to 6 RC passages, followed by questions based on numerical entry, or what are also called theta questions from various chapters. Let's start with RC first. The RC passages were typically 6 question RCs and 3 question RCs. The average difficulty level of this section was around 1.97, which is approximately 2 or moderate. So this was a moderately difficult section. You can say this was more or less at par with what you would expect in the actual exam. When it comes to the RCs, there were 2 longish RCs, which were the 6 question RCs, and luckily for you, these were both among the simplest of the RCs that we had in this mock. So these RCs, one of which was on Indian police and the Nirbhaya case, and one of these was on Mark Cuban. So both these RCs were relatively factual, they had a lot of data in it, and you could have answered 5 out of 6 questions easily in both these RCs. Then there were 3 shorter RCs, which were 3 question RCs. These RCs were more on the philosophy sociology side. So one was based on literary theory, one was based on a French philosopher Sartre, and one was based on the usage of symbols of various kinds. So the one on symbols was moderate. Probably you would have attempted 1 or 2 questions out of 3, but the other 2 could have been left. So of the 5 passages that we had, 2.5 were doable, while the rest could have been left. Coming to the non-RC questions in English, as usual we had questions from jumbled sentences, contextual odd man out questions, paragraph summary, grammar in terms of correct incorrect sentences, and instead of word usage in the previous mock, we had paragraph completion. Here the moderate difficulty questions were based on paragraph summary and jumbled sentences. So these 5 to 6 questions could have been attempted. The rest were moderate to difficult. On the whole, this section was of moderate difficulty level. You could have attempted close to 14 questions in the RC and 3 to 4 questions nicely from the numerical entry questions. Typically we tell people to attempt all the questions which are numerical entry based in English, because you are not going to lose marks. However, when I say that 3 to 4 any questions were doable, it means that those would have been easy to solve compared to the rest. Broadly, number of good attempts here 17 to 18, generally 17. Now let's move on to the next set, which is basically DILR. As you must have seen in the first 2 mocks, DILR is the most difficult section of CAT. That trend has also been followed in this mock. The average difficulty here was nearly 2.3, so it can easily be classified as a difficult section. So what would have been the number of attempts? We always tell students that you should try and attempt 4 sets out of 6, that is the benchmark. Here there was a very clear distinction that 3 to 4 sets were very easily doable, while the rest could have been avoided. So what were the sets that were doable? There was a set where each number was assigned a code and then there was some squaring involved. That was a typical coding decoding kind of a set where you probably had to focus more on meticulousness rather than actually applying too many concepts. So that was something that you should have definitely solved. Then there was a set on 2 bar graphs based on fund collections. Again, this was easy, this should have been completely solved. There were 2 more sets that were doable. One set was on friends and the exams that they take, CAT, SNAP, ZAT, etc. This set would have taken some time, but the beauty of this set was that once you solved it, you would have been able to answer all the questions of the set easily. So this was again a must-do set. And finally there was a set on 6 dhabas and the food served in those dhabas. Longish set, probably time consuming, but once you solved it, you could have answered the rest of the questions. So as a student, I would have probably attempted these 4 sets. What about the remaining 4? So there was one set of 2 pie charts on green chilies. This was something which was slightly more conceptual in nature. There was conditional data everywhere. So I probably would have left this set, also considering that it was the last in the section. Then there was a set on chocolates and Republic Day based on Venn diagrams. This was conceptually tricky. So again I would have left this. There were 2 other sets, one on 4 friends in a restaurant and their orders, and one on experts giving marks in an interview. Possibly one of these 2 sets might have been attempted by some students because these were again those matrix type sets. But these were time consuming and slightly more complex. So if somebody had the comfort level, yes, they would find them doable. For an average student, this might look difficult. So broadly 4 sets doable, 4 sets could have been left. Good attempts 15 to 16. I would say 15. Finally, let's move to the last section of this mock. Typically the easiest section in CAT, again the easiest section in this mock as well. The average difficulty level here was around 1.8 to 1.85, which would be less than moderate and more than easy. So broadly this section can be called easy to moderate. Unlike the previous mock, you can see that there were easily 13 to 14 difficulty level 1 or easy questions in this mock. So I will tell you the question numbers that you should have attempted, but broadly if you look at the trend, you had 14 to 15 questions, of which easily 12 to 13 were doable. So what were these questions? Question number 67 and 68 back to back, one on set theory and one on quadrilaterals. Then you had question 72 on mixtures and alligations, straightforward. Then there was another question 77 on quadratic equations, again followed by 78 on sets, 86 triangles. Then the whole bunch from 89 to 94 was easy, so that was a huge bonus point. And then questions 96 and 99 were again easy. So if you look at the breakup, you will observe that the last 15 questions, 86 to 100, had 10 easy questions, which means that was the area you could have maximized your marks. Whereas the question numbers from 67 to 85 had only 4 or 5 easy questions, which means the entire concentration of questions in this mock was towards the first half of the section rather than the second half. This would have been a big challenge for people who attempted only in chronological order or in sequence. That is where we tell people to look at the whole section initially and then start attempting. The other trend you can observe here is that there were easily 6 to 7 out of these easy questions, 6 to 7 were on geometry. But they were based on geometry if you knew your basic concepts and basic properties. So people are scared of geometry, but here there were straight away 6 questions that were very easy to do if you knew geometry. Similar with set theory. And the ones on arithmetic were straightforward anyways. So here your basic concepts would have really helped you get 13 to 14 questions correct. Apart from these, there were some moderate questions, but they could have been attempted with wise question selection. So here the number of good attempts that I would consider would be close to 18 to 19. To summarize, this paper was a moderate to difficult paper with moderate English, difficult DILR and easy to moderate maths. The number of good attempts in these three sections would have been around 17, 15 and 18. So broadly I would say 50 attempts or anywhere from 49 to 52 attempts would be a good attempt strategy as far as this mock is concerned. Thank you for this mock. We will soon be coming up with an analysis for iCAT04 and the subsequent mocks. You can view more videos of this type on this YouTube channel. You can also like this video after having viewed it. Thank you very much.